When I was 19, living out in the Pacific Northwest, I was on the hunt for some extra work because my regular job was giving me terrible hours. I'm pretty shy, don't have many friends, and tend to get anxious easily, so naturally I turned to CRAIGSLIST, knowing full well it could be sketchy but desperate enough to look anyway. I hadn't had much luck finding side gigs since I don't have any special skills and definitely wasn't interested in OnlyFans or anything like that. One ad caught my eye. It was offering $50 to take pictures of a property, either with a regular camera or something that could shoot from above, like a high-quality phone. They specified it should take just an hour or two, promising that the whole process would be quick. I shot an email to the poster, and within a short time, got a text back from a guy who said I seemed like the perfect fit and invited me over that very same day. It's funny because I'd actually posted on a Reddit thread /2 afraid to skirlier asking if it was a bad idea, and everyone told me to bring someone with me for safety. I didn't do that and ended up deleting the post shortly after. The house was about 20 minutes outside town, deep in the woods. It was a small place, looked a little run-down, but nothing really set off alarms. When I arrived, the guy greeting me looked like he was maybe in his mid-50s, nothing remarkable about him. He welcomed me inside, but the house was completely empty, no furniture, just dust and dirt. I asked where to start taking photos, but he kept dodging the question, making small talk and asking personal stuff about me instead. My anxiety was getting worse, but I kept the small talk going, trying to keep it light. Then I noticed he was staring at me intensely, which made me uncomfortable. At one point, I dropped my phone, and while we were taking pictures around the house, he picked it up and held onto it a little longer than necessary before handing it back. When he was photographing the master bedroom, he brushed my face with his hand and complimented my skin. That was the moment I realized how wrong this was. I felt my blood run cold. I decided I'd had enough, made up a quick excuse about needing to call my mom, and headed for the door. Just as I turned, he grabbed my arm. I still have a bruise on my forearm from that day, which I've kept as evidence. It felt like he was going to snap my arm in half. I'd brought a tiny knife, a gift from my overly paranoid mom who would have freaked out if she'd known I was even there, and without hesitation, I pulled it out and stabbed him in the arm. He yanked his hand back with a little button that released whatever mechanism he'd used, and he swung at my arm with a knife of his own. At that moment, I was already running out of the house, jumping into my car and driving straight to a nearby gas station. Once I was there, my heartbeat slowed down and I called the police. I explained everything and they took it seriously. I went in to give a statement and answer questions. They searched the property and the surrounding forest but didn't find him. The house turned out to be abandoned. In the basement, they found some zip ties. A report was filed, but I honestly believe he's still out there somewhere. I call now and then to check for updates, but there's never been much progress. I've kept this entirely to myself, told only the police, and even my mom doesn't know the full story. Typing all this out might seem like I'm not bothered, but honestly, that was the first time anything like that happened to me, and it's left a mark. I have trouble leaving the house most days. I'm sharing this now as a way to get it off my chest since it's constantly creeping into my thoughts. Just last week, I was living alone in a small college town even though I wasn't a student or staff. My apartment was in a duplex on a quiet street just a few blocks from campus, which most students had left for winter break. Things got eerily quiet when they weren't around. One night, I woke up to a disturbing sound outside, a kind of delirious crying or wailing. It wasn't grief or panic. I'd describe it as more like a weird ghost impression, too convincing and unsettling, like someone trying to sound spooky. I looked out the window but didn't see anyone and couldn't tell where the noise was coming from. After a few minutes, the wailing drifted away and everything went quiet again. The next night, I was woken up again. This time, I heard what sounded like a shovel scraping the sidewalk, rhythmic footsteps, then a long, dragging scraping sound like a thud, then a scrape. I got up and looked out, but there was no snow, only dense fog. I saw a woman across the street. Took me a second to make sense of it because I thought she was wearing some strange hat. But then I realized her hair was long, unkempt, and filthy, tangled into what looked like a massive, shiny hairball. She was hunched over, arms crossed behind her back, like a dancer on ice, even though there was no ice. She was doing this weird, hypnotic dance, stomping heavily twice, then gliding gracefully as if on ice skates. Her balance was almost superhuman for someone who looked frail and elderly. Each glide made a scraping noise of her shoes on the pavement. I couldn't figure out how she was doing it, though she was so fluid and effortless, especially since she appeared so fragile. After a few minutes, she paused, then crouched down like a sprinter at the starting line, leaning forward dramatically with her fingertips touching the ground. She stayed like that for a while, then slowly stood and faced away from me. Tiptoeing, she stretched her arms out and then, suddenly, she started moving rapidly like a ballerina doing a quick, silent dance, disappearing into the fog. I haven't seen or heard anything from her since. Many years ago, when I was 14 or 15, something similar happened. I'm now 38. My family, mom, brother, and I were moving to a new house. We'd asked for help from relatives, mainly my mom's cousin, her sons and wives, to help paint the new place. One day, during the chaos, we decided to go get Slurpees from a nearby 7-Eleven. If you don't know, a Slurpee is a cold, fizzy drink soda flavor made by a machine with a handle. You fill a cup, put on a clear dome lid, and get a long straw with a spoon. Honestly, the spoon's useless because you can mix flavors and drink however you want. My older cousin and I took off to get the drinks, leaving the others working on the house. Walking back, I heard a woman screaming, "Help me," or something similar. I looked in that direction and saw a man struggling to take keys away from an older woman, probably in her 60s. I froze, watching as the scene unfolded before me. The man managed to grab the keys, jumped into her car, and started backing up, but in doing so, he ran over her legs since she'd fallen and landed beneath the car. By the time police arrived, my cousin and I stayed to give our statements. I memorized the license plate of the stolen car, which proved useful because the lady was so in shock she couldn't remember it herself. Later on, I found out the police found the car about 30 miles away. I don't know what happened to that woman or the man. It was the early 2000s, so I doubt there's much online about it now. The store has since closed and become a cell phone shop, but I still think about that day. Another incident in 2015, when I was about 21 and living alone, happened in my small town. I wasn't involved in anything dangerous, just working during the day while my boyfriend was working graveyard shifts. One night, feeling lonely, I decided to drive to a 24-hour adult store downtown after my favorite toy broke. The town's pretty suburban, mostly residential, so the store was on the main strip, with lots of bars, restaurants, and community places. I parked behind it, noticing a guy just standing outside smoking, which was odd at 1 a.m. I figured he was probably just a patron taking a break. As I walked past him, he said hi, and I responded quietly, not making eye contact. But as I kept walking, I realized he was following me, matched my pace perfectly, a sign of trouble. I weighed my options: keep walking and hope I lose him, or go inside where it's busy and well lit. Since it was so late and the streets were empty, I chose to go inside the store. The store clerk was unfazed, but I was nervous. I tried to discreetly ask if the guy outside worked there, but the clerk didn't understand me. I explained I was uncomfortable because he'd followed me in, and he told the man to leave. The clerk watched him, but he refused to move, so I pretended to browse, kept glancing toward the front. Finally, I saw the man slip away, and the clerk told me he'd told him to go but that he hadn't left. I stayed inside, pretending to shop until the man was gone. As I exited the store, I kept my keys ready, looked around, and saw no sign of him. I bolted to my car, got in quickly, and sped off. As I was backing out, I saw him approaching again in the rearview mirror, walking fast toward my driver's side door. I panicked, slammed the gas, and pulled out of the spot so fast I startled him. I stared at him fiercely, knowing predators like that latch onto fear. Once I was clear, he turned back and walked away, defeated looking. I drove straight home, feeling a mix of adrenaline and shame, just glad to get out of there. I told my boyfriend when he got home at 6 a.m., and he agreed I shouldn't have gone out so late alone. I've since moved on from that guy, but I stay inside past 9 p.m. Nomi Town isn't the worst, but it's not the safest either. Thanks for listening, y'all. If you have stories, submit them at letsreadstories@gmail.com. I love reading your experiences, and maybe I'll feature yours next. Also, check out my Patreon or hit the join button for extra content and early access. And finally, don't forget to listen to the Let's Ray podcast stories, compilations, all that good stuff all over your favorite podcast platform. Thanks again, guys. And yeah, you're right, I probably do sound a little alien.